Deacon Don St. Ange. I'm from London, Ontario, Canada, and I'm going to be doing a homily on the fourth Sunday of Advent. We're fast approaching the goal of our last few weeks, which began with a reminder that we must prepare ourselves spiritually in order to realize the joy of an open heart. Without this conversion, we find ourselves fixated on our own definitions of what Christmas should be. Last week, we focused on the joy of what it's all about. In our commitment to this conversion, we can find the hope that only faith can define. The realization that God's plan includes joy even during a time of great difficulty, which leads us to understand more fully the meaning of peace of mind. We are invited to witness through the Word made flesh the love of God. Are we ready and willing to accept this great gift? The silence of Mary, when she ponders, is not a hesitation, but rather a connection with her soul. In that private relationship with the Lord, she asks for the truth of what is being said to her. I do not understand how this is possible, since I have not known man. Is not questioning God's power, but rather is a true sign of humility. Mary inquires with openness and submits without reserve to what is being asked of her. That perfect faith in God resounded throughout her life. Even when faced with the great mystery of what the angel Gabriel reveals to her, she says yes to what she is being asked to do. A few days before Christmas, we are faced with many unknowns. The one thing which is certain for Christians throughout the world is that on the 25th of December, 2020, the celebration of Jesus' birth will take place. In all the readings this Sunday, we are reminded of God's commitment to a plan of salvation and redemption. It is not King David's plan or even the Virgin Mary's idea. And even though we have been prepared by John the Baptist, who himself admits that it is not his plan, we are finally face to face with the truth that everything is based on God's will. Can we accept this great mystery in our own lives? In the first reading today, we are reminded to allow ourselves the time to discern and contemplate what God's will is in our lives. We should not jump into any major decisions without using the tool of prayer, so that we also can ponder if our final decision actually includes God. The prophet Nathan reacts to King David's intentions about building a temple for the Lord by agreeing with the king. His comment is based on his own impressions of what he perceives David to be. It is almost like he believes that David should have carte blanche just because he saved the Israelites, that he's a hero. That is the human part of us all. Nathan was a prophet, and God does make things clear to him about his plans, God's plans. This is such a good example of not pondering or questioning and putting trust in God's will, even though we may not understand it. It is based on faith in what God requires of us. Mary reveals it in today's gospel. We are to love God with all our hearts and all our soul, and we are to love each other. Mary was chosen because of a perfect faith in God to be part of God's plan for us all. Doing things for others is what defines so many of us in this world today. We base many of our so-called good feelings on the gestures of giving during Christmas time. What we receive is also part of our Christmas memories. What constitutes our need to celebrate the 25th of December each year is the good childhood memories of family, of nurturing, of family traditions. Our churches fill on Christmas Day because of these feelings. It is always a good sight to see, and yet the tradition of church, food, and gifts are the driving forces of Christmas time for many. How do we accept the gift of God's Son in our lives? Just recently, Joanne and I were faced with the reality of having to cancel our traditional Boxing Day celebrations in Windsor, Ontario. It's about 200 kilometers from here. It has been something we have been faithful to for over 45 years of marriage. Even when we accept the fact that someone with a better knowledge of what is going on is suggesting rather strongly that we keep our distance, resentment can creep in, closing our minds to what makes sense. Even when this occurs because of impatience or some other good human reason, it is awfully hard to put Christmas time into perspective. Without family, then, what is the use? We're not expecting this pandemic event to ever occur within our lifetime, and yet it has. Our reaction to it can be aided by our faith, even during normal times of restlessness. We are permitted to ask questions and ponder what we cannot understand. A Christmas without the usual distractions is an opportunity to experience the peace that results from the birth of Jesus, the baby. We're only human with an imperfect faith, and yet this cannot negate the fact that we are being invited as individuals to witness, through the Word, the awesome power of God's will in action. Mary understood this because of her perfect faith in God. Even after pondering, her faith and trust in God was never an issue. She becomes an example for us and for Joseph and Jesus as a child of what true peace of mind and heart can be. She becomes an example for everyone she encounters, even today. Advent has been a time of preparation, and like Mary, who is compelled to ponder and question, let us take the time to do the same about staying committed to the joy which God's gift in the manger truly represents. The Christmas story is not intended to be a fable, to be forgotten. It begins before the Annunciation when Elizabeth, who is barren, becomes pregnant. Mary is compelled to be with her during the last trimester of her pregnancy. Without a doubt, though, through God's will, the two women support each other by sharing their faith in God's gift to each one of them. Let us all pray for that same gift of gratitude for God's love during our Christmas this year. May you all experience a blessed Christmas season. God bless.